PI Perspectives.
Today I want to talk to you about the Investigators Toolbox. Many of the folks who listen to this program actually have already signed up and have joined this online community for investigators and the investigative community. It's a place to go for networking. It's a place to go for continuing education, watching webinars, doing your continuing education credit. It's a place also to read up on the latest trends in the industry, stay on top of all the news articles. It's actually supported by some really, really great businesses that support our industry. They're offering discounts and benefits actually for your membership. And then the OSINT catalog. We've got a huge OSINT catalog that you can make your own private library. You essentially pick and choose what you want to be in your library, however you do your research. Check it out today. It's www.investigators-toolbox.com. Listeners of the show, if you use the code PIP201836, you'll save an extra 20%. Investigators-toolbox.com. Go check it out today.
PI Perspectives.
Are you using a case management system? The answer is no. You should really rethink that process. Right. So as you guys know, Crosstracks has been an amazing sponsor of the show. They've just been really supportive. As you guys also know, I didn't used to have a case management system. I was the investigator that was fighting them tooth and nail. I finally decided to give it a whirl. What a great decision, right? During the COVID shutdown, I was able to actually roll my whole business into it and get completely up and running. And my clients love it. I mean, just today, I got a phone call from a client of mine who just couldn't believe how easy it was to access everything and how invoices were there. He actually asked me to go back and upload all my prior cases and put it into Crosstracks. I've been doing business with that firm for, about 8 years, so it's a lot of cases. Yeah, if you don't use a case management system, you should, right? You should check it out. Give Crosstracks a shot. Contact Brad or one of the teammates over there, and they'll get you up and running with a trial and see if it's for you. If you have used Crosstracks and it's been a while and you're not happy with the system that you're in, go check them out. They're doing a lot of really cool new things, and see if it's right for you. If you're unhappy with the system that you're in right now, contact them. The ability for them to roll your system into their system is very easy. Again, you guys know they've been sponsoring this program, and I can't say enough good things about them, but make your own decision, right? Give it a shot on your own and see if it's right for you.
Welcome to PI Perspectives. Today's guest is Matt Seifer of Radius Investigations and Guardian Security Training School. Matt and Matt are two New York PIs, and today they're talking about security schools and the future of guard industry in New York. Both Matts are serving on the ALDONYS board in New York. Security Matt also has a great new initiative he'll talk about for neutralizing threats without using deadly force. Now please welcome Matt Seifer and your host, Private Investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everybody to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. Well, we got some doubles here today. You got double Matts and you got double New Yorkers. So I got Matt Seifer, who's joining us today. He's an awesome investigator from Long Island. He does security guard training as well. He does a little bit of everything. God, we just spent about 20 minutes talking about all the things that we do, and then I decided to turn the cameras on. So I'm going to welcome Matt to the program.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
We're good. How about you guys?
Good. Happy New Year to you. And
happy and safe New Year to you and all our fellow investigators that are listening to this.
Right. So we're going to jump right in with security. And first of all, thank you for serving our country. You're an Army guy, and I always want to acknowledge that. You got back from serving and took a kind of a side route to get into this business, but you're here and you're doing it, and you have a security school that I wanted to talk about, the Guardian Security Training Inc., right? So tell me a little bit about that.
So in response to Sandy Hook back in 2012, when my wife was pregnant, 6 months to the day that Sandy Hook happened, I'm watching these horrific images come across the screen, and I'm looking at my wife, and I got a child coming into this world. And Matt, I can tell you, I was never so fearful in my entire life for anything other than a newborn child coming into this world, and my desire to protect and to provide a safe home and an environment for my child because I didn't want to be one of those parents that come home and not see their children in their room.
Dude, I live
So-
20 minutes away from Sandy Hook, and it really affected around. I mean, I'm in New York, I'm not in Connecticut, but I know people that were involved with all that.
And I've been to the corner, because you still can't go up to the school. It's still blocked off. You can go to the firehouse, but you can't go to the school. So in response to Sandy Hook, I've had some specialized training in response to active shooter with some of the professionals that I've worked with over the years, understanding situational awareness. I made it a mission to start promoting response to active shooter. So understanding the dynamics of the physiological effects that you're going to feel when your mind and body are experiencing that fight or flight condition that we would go through whenever we experience any type of an emergency situation.
Sure.
So I, again, made it a mission to learn everything I possibly could about the individual, Adam Lanza, what his mindset was at the time. And then organically, we started holding seminars with regards to responding to active shooter. And we did them free of charge. We held these, I put these seminars on for the public. Then we started getting some notoriety from local police departments. Suffolk County Police Department came in. Right. They watched me do an active shooter drill at a local library. And then along the way, I became a state certified qualified instructor, and I opened up Guardian security training. Right. So Guardian security training, being the fact that we train guards, new guards, annual guards, and firearms, the response of understanding customer service, de-escalation tactics, using verbal judo, sure, understanding that distance between you and someone that you're speaking with is extremely important for your survival, because you and I both know that an emergency situation can happen at any given time.
Sure.
Just by you and I talking before, the political affiliation, especially with what's going on today, yep, in the environment between Biden and Trump, you could look at somebody the wrong way and say you're a Biden supporter, you're a Trump supporter, and that's going to make an incident arise out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what happened in Colorado, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Look exactly what happened in Colorado. It blows my mind, honestly, that issues like that are happening amongst us as far as American citizens are concerned.
Yeah, scary, and
it's frightening. Yeah. So, again, getting back to why I became an instructor, I wanted to make sure that the general public at large, that whoever took training took good quality training from somebody who's worked in the industry, from the ground up, boots on the ground. Sure. And I'm not a retired cop, and I teach from my professional and personal experience in the industry. I sat in the seats just like they did, just like they're doing now, taking the pre-assignment class, taking the 16-hour, then going on the firearms range, training with my handgun, annual training. So look, understanding that, and we'll get into the burner product that we carry as well, understanding that, you have other options to respond and how you're going to respond, teaching civilians on how to respond and how to keep themselves safe, but more importantly, if they're safe, how they can lead others to safety. Like, sure, God forbid something happens in my daughter's school. I want my daughter to come home, and I want to make sure that the security personnel and faculty and staff at the school are fully versed in how to understand and how to survive an emergency situation like an active shooter or somebody walking in with a bat, somebody walking in with a knife. Yeah. So if you can tell by the veracity and the tone in my voice that I take it extremely seriously, yeah, it gives me goosebumps every time I bring it up.
Yeah, no, and listen, I'm a parent of 4, so I'm right there with you, man. So
are they girls?
No, 2 and 2. Yeah. So
God bless you.
Right. I only got to lose my mind for 2 of them. The other 2, I just lose my patience. So.
And I'm very rarely, I've been on camera before, and, we've done some active shooter drills on Inside TV or Inside Edition rather, and
Sure.
we've had a couple of news broadcasting companies come and interview us. Well, that's all fine and good. I'm really not one for being on camera at all.
Right.
But when it comes to this issue, when it comes to training and it comes to a matter of survival, and again, I take it as seriously as it needs to be taken.
Yep.
There are other options out there where not necessarily a handgun is an option, or utilizing some let's say self-defense techniques where you're using your hands or your arms or what have you.
Yeah.
So if we could we get into the product that we carry?
Yeah. We'll get into that after the break.
All right, good.
Before we're not going to take a break yet, but as we get into that stuff, we'll definitely cover.
Good. Go ahead.
For me, I wanted to cover a little bit of your background, and I love your passion. You and I met through ALDONYS, the Associated Licensed Detectives in New York State, and NCISS. Also, you're a member of both. You and I happen to have a phone conversation, and I was like, wow, the passion of this guy, like, I gotta have him on the show. Like, we really need to talk about this stuff, because it's cool. You really do have that education passion. You really do have that security training passion. And let's face it, the security guard industry has changed immensely in the last 5 years or so. Just to see all these companies essentially just disappearing, and seeing what's still out there. I got to give it to you, man, for hanging out there and making sure the training is being done the way it should be done. And it's interesting because you're a PI also, so you have that perspective of not only doing security but also doing the investigative stuff, which we're going to talk about that also, and get into it. It's really cool. But before you did that, you had a completely different job, right? You were in the auto industry. Tell me a little bit about that stuff.
So many years ago, different lifetime ago, when I first came home from the United States Army, while I was rocking and rolling with some retired court officers, off-duty court officers, off-duty corrections officers, retired corrections officers, I had opened up a brick and mortar store. It was a very, very small store. It was maybe 800 feet with a garage on it that was made out of wood. Right. And I was installing car audio. And along the way, GPS tracking devices started hitting the market. And, I saw a niche where we could make recurring revenue by installing GPS tracking devices like you had talked about, like LoJack. Right. And there were other companies that were out there that were just starting to hit the market. And there were companies like Direct Electronics, the makers of Viper and Python, that were getting into the GPS tracking world. And, along the way, learning the dynamics of the wiring of a vehicle was extremely integral in my career, because as I was getting out of car audio, as the industry was changing or evolving and I needed to adapt, I needed to pivot, I held on to the GPS acumen, reason being because, in wanting to be a PI, getting into the security industry, I saw the niche where, by providing information like that at that level, that it was marketable. And by being marketable, I could make money from it. So, and then as you and I were discussing before, understanding the business law with regards to our business, our industry as being a private investigator.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I thought that was really interesting when we were chatting about it, and just your passion of understanding. It's General Business Law 7, I think.
7A as it applies to security guards and registration and education and bail enforcement.
New York, by the way.
Yeah. So, everything about Article 7A is about, running the business of a private investigations company, right? Very little practical end of it as far as being an investigator, very little practicality from a retiring law enforcement officer who worked as a detective. There's some now in some of the testing that I'm hearing, because we do a lot of PI prep tests for retired law enforcement or people like myself that have bootstrapped their way up working for other private investigation companies. You really truly need to know the law itself, the general business law, because if you don't, you're putting the public at risk. And we both know that the Department of State, Secretary of State, Division of Licensing Services, if you do anything wrong, they're going to jam you up.
Oh, misdemeanors. If you're operating without a PI license, you can
Or
do jail time.
you hold yourself out, or someone perceives you to be a police officer, for that matter.
No badges. We
Absolutely.
got no stinking badges.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there are a lot of, fake private investigators that hold themselves out as licensed, and yet they're taking money from consumers and they're not producing anything. And that's it. Not only is it morally wrong, but it's dangerous to our industry. And, the mere fact that ALDONYS is as strong as it is part and parcel why I became a part of ALDONYS through, and thank you. Let me sidetrack this. The phone call that you gave me last month was an eye opener. And because while I had thought about and I had contemplated about walking away from ALDONYS, after you and I got off the phone, I was very, very, very happy with the direction that you and the new incoming president are looking to take ALDONYS.
Yeah, well, it's not just me; it's a group effort. The board is a very strong board, and they're good people that really, really love this industry. And what's tied in with last year and the general business law. I think is a good way we can tie it in before we take the break. So there was this, COVID shutdown, and it was a question of whether or not we could operate as private investigators and even security. I mean, security was pretty much okay, essential services that makes sense, but we need to get an official ruling on this, right? So I was part and parcel to several phone calls and conversations with Fred Altman, who is our lobbyist, our guy up in Albany, who's an attorney.
Boots on the ground guy.
Our boots on the ground guy, exactly, right? So, just having those conversations of, okay, are we essential or not essential? We need to get the word out on this. And Fred was great. He really made some phone calls and did the things that we needed to do, and we got clarification. Then our president, Tom Ruskin, was able to put out a statement to everybody saying, hey, work with confidence. You don't have to worry about this. We're covered under essential services.
So that being the case, one of the things that, I wound up focusing in on not only was GPS tracking devices, but also listening and recording devices as well. So that part of my business, as far as bug sweeps are concerned, I took a personal back seat to it because I really didn't want to be in anyone's house any longer due to the COVID pandemic. So pivoting again, it was great to see that with your hard work and the rest of the group from ALDONYS's hard work and the attorney's hard work, it was great to see Tom's email that we were deemed essential.
Yeah.
However, while we did take, I would say in the totality of the very beginning towards the mid of COVID influx, we only suffered a 10-day loss of closing down the business. Right. While it was good to take a break, I couldn't wait to get back out on the streets.
Yeah, we were never closed in my business. Yeah, we never were. I mean, did we slow down? Yes. Were we officially closed? No.
Yeah, no. See, we didn't officially close. We just closed the doors. Because we had no direction. Nobody was telling us. A DCJS or Department of State wasn't telling us exactly what we needed to know, and we didn't want to put the public in danger whatsoever. So, as a responsible business owner, until we heard from Department of State or the DCJS or even or Tom Ruskin and from you guys from ALDONYS that we were considered essential, that's when I felt more comfortable getting back out into the field.
Yeah, and it was very interesting because it was the general business law that is what saved us, right? The definition in the general business law was how we were able to make that argument and win that argument. Like, hey, we're essential. We need to be there. And listen, we had backing also from NCISS, the National Council of Investigative Security Services. Same thing, right? It was all. Everything was coming out nationally with regards to investigations of how there was a need for it, and especially with security, boots on the ground. You're gonna have to pivot your people. I know tons of guys that are in the security industry that it was the busiest time for them because they were turning work away because they couldn't cover. I have somebody getting so many phone calls to having that physical security presence at locations. It was crazy between the rioting and the
nightlife. The nightlife industry took a major hit, right. And all the security guard companies that are out there, the contractual security guard companies that are out there with personnel. I was talking, and we train I would say probably a good solid dozen different company personnel from different companies throughout Long Island. They send us their personnel for annual training. They also send us our or their students that want to become security guards.
Right.
You know, and in talking to the owners, they had to pivot into figuring out creative ways to keep their doors open, especially if they were focusing in on the nightlife or restaurant type security. You know, you got to figure that industry alone really took a nosedive.
Well, it's terrible. You know,
but in the same respect, we found, like, you know, there's one company, and I know you know Mario Doyle.
Yeah, sure.
You know, he's a great guy. He sends me all his students that come to me. For all my students that come from Doyle Security Services are great personnel.
Sure.
You know, Mario is probably one of the better and more premier security guard companies. Not to pitch him, but he does care about his guards as if they were family.
Shout out to Mario. We'll pitch him.
Yeah, shout out to Mario. You know, he's a good guy. You know, him and I see things quite alike. He understands that my passion, just like you do, for giving the right type of instruction, the way it's supposed to get done, you know, it's just paramount in his mind. Because not only is it's customer service, but it's about keeping his guards safe.
Sure.
So, you know, he had to pivot, and in doing so, you know, he noticed a bigger influx in retention of security guards that were looking to jump ship because they felt that, you know, due to COVID, that they weren't going to be employable. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Mario is constantly expanding, and I'm seeing not only his company, but other companies that we work with, that we train their guards. They're expanding, especially with making sure that people are in compliance. In fact, I was teaching a class last night, and it came up that, you know, what happens if somebody walks into the establishment and they refuse to wear a mask? You know, what do I do? And, you know, that opens up a whole different line of conversation of something that I never even thought I would ever even talk about in class.
It's crazy, right?
It's
the world we live in.
The world we're living in. And I think with regards to our general business law and regarding security guard training, you know, look, it's written in stone, but yet we also have to be flexible in understanding that while the laws that are set in stone for us, when you're dealing with human nature, when you're dealing with the general public, you have to be a little flexible in our industry.
Sure.
And one of the things that you and I, you know, agree on is that trust factor. Sure. If you can't, if someone can't trust you, and it goes right back to anything, if you don't build that rapport of trust, I mean, instantaneously, you're never going to get it, ever.
Yeah. So we're going to jump out real quick, and when we come back, I want to get back into the school. I want to talk about the products and the stuff that you have available.
Absolutely.
I think it's awesome that you're doing all this stuff. So
thank you very much.
Everybody sit tight. We're going to jump out real quick, hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
Want full data access without a site inspection? IRB Search gives you full social security numbers, dates of birth, up-to-date contact info, and so much more, without the inconvenience or cost of an inspection. As an added bonus, you can access IRB data on any device in any location. You'll always have the best data anytime, anywhere. Visit irbsearch.com and use exclusive promo code PIPOD2021 for a free trial and 100 credits. Offer available for new and returning customers. Are you overwhelmed with your current caseload? Could you use some help with your skip trace assignments? With Merlin Locate Services, rather than adding staff, you can add an entire skip trace department of licensed private investigators who specialize in skip tracing. Check out merlinlocate.com today. When you work with Merlin Locate Services, you bring on a valuable experience and trusted extension to your team. What do you do when you get calls for bug sweeps? Did you know USABugSweeps.com, the #1 TSCM provider in the country, pays you a 20% commission for converted sales leads? Stop turning money away. USABugSweeps.com uses top-rated technology, and they cover all of the United States. So save time and make money today. contact usabugsweeps.com and mention PIP20. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the Investigators Toolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Did you hear about the latest issue of PI Magazine? Friend of the show, Andrea Orozco, has been named PI Magazine's Investigator of the Year. Congrats, Andrea. It's well-deserved indeed. This issue is available today.
And welcome back, everybody, to PI Perspectives. We're here today with Matt Seifer. A couple of Matts just talking about security, talking about investigations, and we're going to talk about the Guardian Security Training, Inc., which is Matt's security business and training school. So, Matt, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. So before we jumped out earlier, we had talked about the school and some of the initiatives that the school takes and the training and your passion behind it. And you started talking about a particular product, something you have available. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
So this product here is the burner technology launcher. This here is a less lethal option for civilians to use that we're also looking to get into security guards' hands as well. So albeit, look, at the end of the day, your best tool when you're a security guard is your mouth and your mind, not your hand.
Sure.
And I always teach, keep your hands to yourself. Don't escalate the situation, try and escalate the situation. So in response to that, when this product was introduced to me here in the New York region, I saw this as a powerful option for a way to defend themselves if they have no other option. If the guard has done everything they possibly could to retreat, they have no other option. This here also puts distance between themselves, the guard, and the attacker, where it allows de-escalation and time and distance for all parties concerned, including the attacker, to go home alive.
Sure.
To go home alive.
So tell me a little bit about it. What exactly does it do?
So good question. It's a CO2-based propellant launcher. And what happens is the propellant comes out of the launcher. It's a 68 caliber round filled with pepper spray or pepper powder, spray in a powder form. That it's a burning irritant. It will burn the eyes, irritate the skin. Someone breathes it in, it makes it very difficult for them to breathe, and it only incapacitates. It doesn't harm them in a way that they can't recover from it. It incapacitates them for relatively a short period of time, but allows the person that's being attacked to defend themselves. Now, unfortunately, it's not legal to carry in New York City, but all over New York State. You can carry it outside of New York City in the 5 boroughs. So again, one of the reasons why we're introducing this now to the guards and, hopefully springboarding with ALDONYS and also NCISS is to have a national recognition for the product where it's a less lethal option if the guard or civilian has no other option, no other way to protect themselves.
Sure.
We're not looking to recreate the wheel. We're looking to augment. And, one of the things that, we're very concerned with is this use of force issues that is happening with law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And, look, they have their handguns, they have taser. Handgun, obviously, is potentially going to take someone's life. Taser is effective within 10 to 15 feet. This product that I just showed you, Matt, is good. It's extremely accurate within 60 feet. Look at that, 60 feet worth of space between you and the assailant that allows you to retreat into safety, get to safety as quickly as you possibly can. It's not going to terminate. It's going to neutralize the assailant for a very short period of time where it gives you the ability to get away and get home alive.
It's something, I guess, this company's going. They're not. It's available nationally, I guess.
Well, yeah. So we're the only distributor here in New York for it. We're the only authorized dealer distributor for it. Plus, I flew out to Nevada and I took their law enforcement training class over the course of 2 days, where we trained with the product as well in different scenarios. Like, let's say if we had somebody who was EDP, emotionally disturbed, somebody that was coming at us with a gun or a knife, how we can use the product, how we can use the launcher to deliver the irritant round to get compliance extremely quickly, because that's what we're looking for. Right. In the force continuum itself, it's all about getting compliance quickly and then de-escalating. Like, law enforcement has the ability, both in their training and also legally, to go one step further in the use of force just to get compliance. However, in the private world, whether it be private investigations, process server, security guard, if we have to use force, we have to be able to articulate why it was reasonable, lawful, and necessary to use that force. Right. And the instance that we get compliance, we must de-escalate. We can't go one step further. So basically, what it does, Matt, is when you hit somebody with the actual round itself, you see what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah, it definitely spreads out.
The launcher itself will deliver the irritant once it hits either the backstop of where somebody's standing, or it hits somebody directly either in a leg, in the chest. Once the capsule starts to explode, the irritant in itself is meant to diffuse the assailant. Right. You're looking to disorientate them. You're looking to buy yourself time to get away from them. So look, being the one of the only distributors in New York State, we found that the calling for this, especially direct response to the rallies and the protests, and an option for subjects themselves, let's say whether it be private security or civilians that want a less lethal option to protect themselves. Sure. This fits that square peg into a round hole, because we needed an option now where instead of going to handgun or going to taser or going to a bat, I stand extremely tall in this. We're looking to get this into the school districts as well, for teachers who can use it in the last line, last resort to protect themselves, and students in classrooms in case someone who doesn't belong in the school is there until law enforcement gets there. Sure. So it's a phenomenal product.
It's amazing. Like technology, things are coming up with. It's amazing how quickly, these things are out there, and not having to use lethal force, not having to get hand to hand and potentially get stabbed, or have to use a chokehold that you shouldn't be using. But who knows what happens? Somebody falls the wrong way as you're tussling, and they break their neck. Then it becomes an issue. And I think the last thing we need in this country is another issue. we've got enough issues these days.
It's what's been driving our industry between private investigations for either who's at fault or who's not at fault, right? When the insurance companies hire us. And it's also driving the security industry as well, because we want to prevent these issues from happening in the first place.
Sure. Yeah, it's crazy. So, like, where do you see the industry going? Obviously, this is 2020 was a bumpy year. What's some of the forecasts for 2021, where you see the security guard industry, the future of it?
You're going to start seeing security guards popping up where you normally would not see a security guard popping up. Like, we see them at the libraries occasionally. We see them at the banks. We see them at sometimes you see them at the pharmacies. Now you're starting to see them at anywhere where there's going to be groups of people that compliance for wearing masks and practicing social distancing, at least for the foreseeable future. I would say at least until 2023, 2023, 2024, somewhere around those lines, you're going to see guards popping up in places unexpectedly, whether it be in Home Depot, where you normally don't see guards. They usually have their own personnel. And it's not just necessarily in the rural areas as well. It's going to be in suburbia. You're going to start seeing them pop up because, even whether it's, the areas with money or without money, everybody in their own mind is, the public is going to demand social distancing.
Well,
So,
I mean, here's what I see, man. I see medical facilities where
yes.
where the vaccine is available. You're going to need, stuff like that. Houses of worship, you're going to see that also.
Mhm.
As there's a lot of unrest, and
Like,
we
look
have
what just
started to see
happened.
that
Look what
trend.
happened in Texas over the weekend.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. You never know. But I think that, in desperate times, people get desperate, and we're in desperate times now. So I think you can't. Nothing should surprise you these days, I guess, is a good way to put it. Anything can happen. I remember when I was talking to a buddy who I share office space with, and he was telling me about shelter in place, back in March of last year.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what is that? I've never heard that before. He goes, get ready for it. Fast forward a week or two later, it was very
And
real for me.
that's what we were doing. It was amazing, and situational awareness is not necessarily just emergency response based. Situational awareness is every day. You have to carry it with you every single day, understanding what's going on around you,
Yeah,
not walking with your head down, keeping your head up, looking around, seeing what's going on, listening to what the media has to say, but with a little bit of a little filter in place, because
sure.
ultimately, we have the ability to make our own decisions and what's best for us. Nevertheless, I started teaching shelter in place right when COVID started hitting.
Right.
And once we were deemed essential, we were able to start teaching again, which we were very happy with. We really didn't skip a beat whatsoever for the most part.
Sure.
Nevertheless, you know, the, the new guards, the new students that are coming through, when we break it down for them as far as, situational awareness and being able to adapt and being fluid in our industry, again, that's like you said, you're going to see them in the houses of worship, which now, we're currently working with 3 different houses of worship, creating policy and procedure for them as it applies to COVID,
Mhm.
that have their own proprietary security guard forces internally. So it's for anybody that's in the know, for anybody that's in our industry, you got to be able to pivot. And if you want to stay creative, if you want to be able to have, streams of revenue coming in to maintain and to, keep up with, everything that's going on in the industry, yeah, you have to be able to take that information in and figure out ways to introduce it to your clientele.
Sure.
And, by creating policy and procedure, by listening to and seeing what's going on by the CDC, and seeing what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. There are ways to be creative in our industry where you can create money from it.
Yep.
Look, at the end of the day, let's call it for what it is. I teach for passion, but I also teach to survive.
Sure.
I teach to support my family. I teach, and I find that the two go hand in hand, where if I'm able to teach and make money in doing it, it's not really a job, it is my passion.
Sure.
I've taken what I've learned as a private investigator, working for many years in the industry, working with professionals such as yourself, um, and I parlay that into, my ability to get a message across to students. And it comes from a good place. It comes from my heart, where when I have a student come to me and say, wow, I never really thought about an issue like that, but the way you explained it really broke it down, because I'm relentless. I will make sure that my students understand and know the dynamics of how to make sure that they operate in our industry as safely as they possibly can.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's essential. And the folks that succeed in doing that kind of work are the ones that understand soft skills and understand, like that is the key to everything.
Key
Right.
to everything.
Yeah.
Customer service, soft skills is number one.
Yeah.
Communication is number one.
Yeah, it's so important, and I think giving yourself an edge by continuing education, staying on top of technology, understanding that hey, drones could be implemented, right? That
Yeah,
could be very useful for what we do, and
drones is a
understanding
big business.
big business right now. And also understanding, geotagging and geofence when it, existed the way it did, like that technology is out there. Being able to scrape the internet for, for information, if you're protecting a particular facility, knowing how to go in and search for any active threats online, like
Mm-hmm.
there's a skill to that, and there are tools to it, but there's also a skill to it and understanding, and if you're taking the initiative to do the training and learn how to do this stuff and stay on top of it, that's how you're going to be successful.
Utilizing open source and closed source tools that are available to us based on our licensing is concerned, they're constantly evolving that. And, you see it, I see it, companies that you introduced me to, like your Toolbox, Scope now, obviously TLO, and understanding how to utilize the internet, even just through open source means, by collecting and harvesting useful information that'll prevent issues from happening in the first place. So,
Sure.
And the general public at large, they rely on guys like you and I to make sure that we disseminate true, accurate, useful information.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're, held to certain standards, making sure that we protect that useful information and don't disseminate it to places and people that we're not supposed to, right?
And again, one of the things that we talk about very heavily is operational security, right? So when we talk about training, the other thing is that we have a duty to uphold our clients' private and privileged information. In fact, we're bound by law almost to the point where it's a Hippocratical oath that we must take, like an attorney does.
Yeah.
And while we're licensed, if we break that law, we will lose our licensing.
Yeah.
So, again, it's part and parcel to general business law, understanding the general business law to bring this conversation right around full circle.
Right back to the end, right?
Yep.
As we wrap things up here, we'll bring it back to the end.
Everything that we do is based on the general business law, and understanding that, operating as a security guard, what's required for maintaining your registration. If you want to become an armed guard, what's required for training so you can, understanding the Penal Law 400, understanding the nuances of how to go about getting pre-licensing exemption, by understanding local laws, rules, and regulations, it helps us better. It serves us better in being a better private investigator, security guard, trainer for our clients that come in, our clients or our students that come in.
Gives you credibility. If you ever have to testify in these things, you ever have to, or you're going out on a sales meeting, why should I hire you? Well, I adhere to all the rules and laws. This is what they are. It just makes you look more professional and sound better.
Somebody once said to me, I'm not really a suit and tie type of guy.
Yeah.
I'm more of a blue jeans, black shirt every single day type of guy.
Sure.
When a client says to me, why should I hire you? I said, because you're not paying for my $3,000 Armani suit. You're not paying for my Porsche Cayenne that's sitting in the parking lot. I drive an older beat up Honda Accord.
Right.
So, but that also comes from personal experience. And the reason why I bring that up is because the marketability of the things that I have learned in this industry is invaluable. And being able to give that to clients, being able to give back to students is extremely important. And if any of us that are out there listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, if you have the ability to give back, do so accordingly. Yeah. It's extremely important because there's a personal satisfaction that I get from it that is unmatched by almost anything I've ever experienced, except for watching my daughter be born.
Yeah. And even if you're a business owner, like you should approach running your business with having your replacement lined up.
Absolutely. We are not indispensable.
Mentoring somebody that can one day go out and do your field work and do, the things that you want to do so you can move to that next level. You should be raising up and training leaders, leaders for your business.
It's funny you say that. I love taking on interns, and I had one intern that was supposed to stay with me for 2 weeks. He wound up staying with me for 2 years.
Wow.
And
I paid him, I hope. It was
absolutely, right? Absolutely.
Just making sure.
Absolutely. In fact, Will had moved on to work for now a government contractor that screens all United States parcel mail coming in and out of the United States as an investigator for a private contractor that contracts the United States Postal System. Cool. And I take a lot of pride in Will, and I was sad to see him go. and we still keep in touch. But the skills that he learned through me, that I had a lot of pleasure in teaching him, showing him the ropes in the field, conducting investigations, witness statements, motor vehicle accidents, you name it, anything from, homicide to sexual assault. He was able to see it through me, and I taught him the right way to do things, the legal right way to do things. And based on the general business law, again, bringing it around. One thing I've always said to him was that, Will, as long as you're honest with your clients, as long as you're honest with yourself, you're never going to do anything wrong. Just learn the law, and you're going to be fine.
Great.
So the point where he was able to go out and become an investigator for a private contractor.
Great. So we're going to wrap things up here. So how do folks get a hold of you? How do they find the school?
Do I really have to give out that information?
No, it's going to be in the show notes anyways.
So if anybody would like to contact me, here's my personal cell phone number, which if anybody knows me, knows that the best way to contact me is via text message.
Yeah.
My personal cell phone number is 631-492-4000. Again, that's 631-492-4000. Awesome. You can also reach me via email through m.seifer, S-E-I, F as in Fox, E-R, at N-Y-I-N-B. But text me first. If you need anything, I'll be more than happy to respond to your text. I very rarely have the phone to my ear because I'd rather pay attention to what's going on in front of me.
Sure.
But a text message I will return very quickly.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I really appreciate it.
I really love to tap into the security aspect of what we do every now and then, because people think it's only private investigations and all that, but there's so much more to this industry, and I love being able to have somebody who knows what they're talking about come on and just.
Who's that? Is that me?
Yeah, I don't know. Allegedly,
that was me.
Probably my next the next guy.
Listen, I'd love to come on again anytime you'd like to have me, Matt. Feel free to give me a jingle. I'll be more than happy to jump on.
Yeah, we didn't even cover any of the Title IX stuff that we were going to get into. So maybe we'll have you back on to talk about that. That's another show for another day.
To be continued.
To be continued, yeah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys next week on the next show. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Be safe.
What a great show today. We want to thank Matt for joining us and talking about his school and the initiatives he has available. Now, if you're looking for any extra training, please reach out to him. We also want to thank Crosstracks, Merlin Locate Services, IRB, PI Institute for Education, and USABugSweeps.com for sponsoring the show. Have you checked out Investigatorstoolbox.com yet? Remember, it only takes 49 cents a day to unlock the future of investigations. Make an investment in your business and yourself today. The legacy discount is done, but you still can save some money. Use code PIP201836 to save an extra $20. If you got a question or comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. We'll be back on Monday with a new show, so make sure you tune in. Once again, Happy New Year and stay safe out there, everyone.